We unite to lift our hearts and open our minds to a larger reality, to accept, support, and encourage one another, to seek the wisdom in all religion, and to cherish and sustain the web of life. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Hank Purse, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading. It is so good to have you all here with us this morning. And let me also just say my pronouns are he, him, and his. It is wonderful to have you all here this morning. Things might be a little rough. I'm in charge of doing the pictures and I know, but look, we're here. We're gonna make it as great as possible. And I'm just so glad that you have invited us into your homes this morning. Let me at this point turn our service over to our worship associate, Brooke Martino, who will be sharing some other opening words with you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brooke Martino, a member of the worship arts team, and I welcome you to my living room this morning into our virtual Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading. We welcome you no matter your race, sexual orientation, gender identity, political beliefs, or physical ability. We welcome you. In this strange and uncomfortable time, you are free to be yourself with all of your fears and uncertainties. You are welcome in this place, in this time, and are invited to be virtually together this morning. Please join us after service in our Zoom fellowship hall to connect and share conversation with one another. Again, I want you to know that Reverend Hank, Sally, Jamie, Mary, Trevor, and I, along with all the staff and volunteers here at UUCR, are so glad that you have chosen to spend your time with us this morning. I am grateful that you have taken the time out of your morning to join together with us, and may we enjoy our worship this morning.
And friends, would you join me as we light our chalice? Oh my goodness, the little candle went out here. Here we go. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek.
Good morning, everyone. Please join us in singing "Wake Now My Senses." And we're still on our Zoom learning curve, so we have the fun show and tell kind of situation with our lyrics. But please sing along this beautiful hymn, "Wake Now My Senses."
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quest for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake Good morning, everyone. I'm Sally Lieberman. My pronouns are she and her. On this last Sunday morning in April, I'm wondering if perhaps you've had your day of the leaf yet. Often in mid to late April, there's a day when we're walking and we're out and about and we realize that while we weren't looking, the leaves exploded open in some sort of coordinated celebration, following their senses and their sensibilities as they come into being for a new season. If you've had your day of the leaf this year or in years past, I'm wondering if you've ever also too had your day of the spider. Some of you know that about a year ago, I moved from the home where I raised my family. And I'm not in that house this spring, and I have not yet had my day of the spider. But for more than 20 years in that house, there would be a morning when I would come down the stairs and I would walk through the tendrils of webs, and I would know that the spiders had made their mark of return. I wonder if you've seen the spiders yet this year. Granted, there are spiders that don't leave us. There are spiders that hang out for the whole year, but there are definitely generations of spiders that arrive in the springtime. And this week, our children have been talking about our second Unitarian Universalist principle, which in kids speak reminds us to be kind in all of our interactions and in all of our relationships when we can, when it's possible, and when it's safe. Being kind can sometimes be a brave act. I'm wondering if you have any kind of relationship with spiders of any nature. They're curious creatures, aren't they? Nature made them well. Nature did her job. She made spiders fierce. She made them a little bit poisonous, some more so than others. She gave them tools to live in a world where they are very small amongst many larger creatures. I wonder how you feel about spiders. Spiders are really curious for humans because they offer us choices in how we can react in different situations. Spiders are kind of creepy. Some people, however, find them beautiful. This is true. Those who find them creepy, I would remind us that spiders are actually great friends to humankind. They catch an awful lot of mosquitoes. And mosquitoes, ironically, are humankind's greatest predator. Our spiders are unlikely friends. And they offer us a choice. Because when we find spiders, and we're safe, and we're in a position where we're still a lot bigger than them, and we're able to do so safely, I wonder what kind of choice we might make when the spider is really more like this size, which is creepy enough. Might we make a choice to walk alongside the spider, to acknowledge that the spider is simply doing what the spider knows to do and was placed here by the same force that placed us at these very moments in our lives. I'd like to share a mini story. On this last Sunday in April, in the springtime that we will call a springtime like no other, when we're discussing a theme of liberation, this mini story comes to us from Rudy Francisco. He asked me to kill the spider. Instead, I got the most peaceful weapons I could find. I took a cup and a napkin, and I caught the spider, and I put it outside, and I made sure it could walk away. You see, if I am ever caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, just being alive and not bothering anyone, I hope I am greeted with the same kind of mercy.
Friends, let us enter into our moment of prayer first by sounding the tingsha. Let's open our hearts in prayer. Thou, we come to this place. We come to this place today, needing you in different ways, needing something that perhaps we are not even able to name or understand. Some of us need strength because we are facing a big challenge. Some of us need hope because we feel like giving up. Some of us need love because we are feeling alone. We trust that there are connections for us. There are things that will feed our souls, whether through word or music or in quiet moments of reflection, that you are here with us, that we are together in our separateness. We have 3 green cards this morning. The first is from Rob Ward, who wants us to know that his wife Louise, is recovering very well from her surgery on April 1st. Her first round of chemo began this week with very little side effects to date. Everything sounds extremely hopeful and possible, and thank you for all the positive thoughts and well wishes. They are working. From Rob and Kitty Craig Coleman. Kitty had a brief trip into Mass General Hospital due to some unusual heart issues. We're happy to report that she is okay. It's a temporary issue brought on by stress that is expected to resolve within a month or so with medication. We are so appreciative of and grateful for all the love and support we've received from so many members of this beloved community during these last few days. And we know a large number of folks share with us the joy that Kitty will be fine in the near future. Our ministerial intern, Jamie Dingus, shares so much gratitude and love for the Jamie Love Fest that happened on Friday. She was completely surprised and delighted to see everyone's posts, pictures, emails, and videos. This morning, she is preaching her first of 2 sermons for her candidating week in Huntsville, Alabama, and is so thankful to have your blessings with her. And she says that she loves us all so much. Of course, we hold Jamie and the fine people of the Huntsville Church in our prayers this day and for the week to come. Wisdom, be more precious than possessions without end. Truth, be more sacred than the pleasing of a friend. Courage, be our strength to gain the distant goal. Beauty, send cleansing wonders through the soul. May these be our priorities. Blessed be, and amen.
Morning stars are rising, rising.
Our reading this morning is called Goldilocks Celebrates Her 35th Birthday by the Reverend Peter Friedrichs. Goldilocks celebrates her 35th birthday at the Philadelphia Zoo, and we debate the relative merits of a long life in captivity or a shorter one in the wild, not that she ever had a choice. They feed her pumpkins filled with peanuts and ice cake with granola and peanut butter icing. What could be better? Except when you think about it, for a polar bear, some fresh caught seal savored on an ice float during an endless Arctic summer day. I wonder if her bear self longs for what she's lost. Vast expanses of tundra, endless room to roam, months-long darkness and bedding down in winter dens. The smell of spring and friends and mates, blessed solitude away from grandparents with wide-eyed toddlers on their shoulders pointing, always pointing. Or is she contented of her hand-fed indolence, living like a lottery winner, pampered with a staff, a private pool, and a health plan that put the senators to shame? When did she turn the corner that she lost her bareness to where it could not be regained? When she had been held so long that a release would mean her certain death. How easy it is to forget how freedom feels and to lose the memory of what it's like to be who we were born to be.
These are the times that try men's souls. This is the opening word to one of Thomas Paine's more famous pamphlets. And it was read to Washington soldiers just before they crossed the Delaware and attacked Trenton. These are the times that try our souls, aren't they? All of a sudden, everything we knew was bad. Every doubt about how we were living on this earth that hid back in the recesses of our minds have come to the fore. Now, the worship theme for this month is liberation. And, our church subscribes to a collective of other Unitarian Universalist, churches that provides worship and educational materials. The group is called Soul Matters. And they are working with 100 or so congregations, and they create these monthly worship themes. Last year, when they sent out the year's schedule of themes, I'm sure the thought of choosing the theme of liberation for April was a no-brainer. April begins with Passover, which tells the story of the Hebrew people freeing themselves from slavery in Egypt. And then comes Easter, where the Christian story tells of Jesus liberating himself from death. To stretch the metaphor a little bit further, we could say that spring tells a story of seeds liberating themselves from the dark earth and leaves from the branches. Little did our friends over at Soul Matters know or expect what would happen this year. No, instead of liberation, the theme for all of us is isolation. Little did we think, though perhaps in our deepest fears we could have predicted, that our president would urge groups of protesters, armed protesters, who wanted to undo quarantines. He would urge them on by tweeting, "Liberate Michigan, liberate Minnesota." But back before all of this, I thought I would talk about liberty, the way it appears in our lives and in our culture. And so in doing some research, I found a little anecdote about Thomas Paine and Benjamin Franklin. Now, Tom Paine was the scruffiest of the founders of our nation. Uneducated, unloved, a failure at business and in marriage. And by the age of 37, he was ruined. And therefore, he did what many young Englishmen did. if they possibly could, he sailed to America. He was sickened by typhus during the journey and arrived in Philadelphia in December of 1774, so weak that he had to be carried off the ship. What saved his life was a letter found in his pocket. The bearer, Mr. Thomas Paine, is very well recommended to me as an ingenious, worthy young man. It was signed by Benjamin Franklin. And that was better than a bag of gold. Paine was a radical who came to Dr. Franklin's attention after publishing a 77-page pamphlet. We'd call that a book. A 77-page pamphlet called Common Sense. The story goes that Franklin once said to Paine, "Where liberty is, there is my country." To which Paine answered, "Where liberty is not, there is mine." My question for us this morning is, what role are we playing in promoting liberty? You know, the English folk singer and activist Billy Bragg once wrote a song about liberation. The opening lines to the song called North Sea Bubble. The opening lines are, "I went out drinking with Thomas Paine. He said that all revolutions were not the same. They are as different as the cultures that gave them birth, for no one idea can solve every problem on earth. So don't expect it all to happen in some prophesized political fashion, for people are different and so are nations. You can borrow ideas, but you can't borrow situations." You see, Thomas Paine played a role in not just the American Revolution, but in the French Revolution and in 3 revolutions, actually. He believed that liberation would look different in different cultures because of the environments. So the American Revolution didn't have the same level of ferocity and bloodshed as the French, and so on and so on. And so the liberation that each of us is looking for in our lives, the liberation we are looking for in our nation, are different. You know, as much as the chosen theme is liberation, and we've all been living in isolation, what many of my sermons this past month have touched on is the theme of transformation. So liberation, isolation, and transformation. You see, we've all had a chance to think about who we are in this world and the impact we have on it these last 7 weeks. It's like the poem that Brooke read so well, how it ends. How easy is it to forget how freedom feels, to lose the memory of what it's like to be who we were born to be. Who are we going to be after this whole situation is over? How are we going to look once it's over? How will we transform ourselves, our nation, our world? For we have realized that having a healthcare system that is reliant on people having jobs doesn't work that well when everyone loses those jobs. That preventing people from voting by mail is just a way for conservatives to control the election. We've realized that the poor and the people with black and brown skin are treated differently. And that is why there are 1,500 people sick in Chelsea this morning and only 60 in Winchester. We have realized that a bunch of us can work from home. We've realized that home health aides, teachers, nurses, doctors, postal workers, grocery clerks, bus drivers, and many, many more are well underpaid. And although the large corporations have held up many of these workers as heroes, many of them, in fact, have been martyrs to a system that does not function right. And we have realized that nature can rebound if if humans just stay out of the way. And that it is possible for us to have a sustainable planet. And here's the other thing we should all realize, that we are all linked together. My health and freedom is linked together with the people who live in Chelsea and Winchester and China and Italy and Wisconsin and New York City. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, which affects one directly and affects all indirectly. Dr. King wrote those words many years ago. We need to seek liberation from a system that makes us sick, that sacrifices women and the elderly and the poor and people of color in the name of profits, in the name of what is needed, right? All revolutions are not the same, sang Billy Bragg. All of our liberations are needed, unless that you think that your liberation is more important than other people's liberation. We have quarantine protesters saying that they should open up shops and the heck with Granny. I saw posters with people saying, say no to communism. What would be much more impressive and which would convince me all the more is if I saw those people burning their checks from the government. Now, it turns out that a lot of what seems like a grassroots movement, these protesters, is really being funded and was started by wealthy business people. This fake grassroots movement is known as astroturfing. That's a good term, isn't it? Astroturfing. And also, the other thing that's really interesting is that many of these get back to work protests have been supported by white nationalists, a group that a friend of mine refers to as the Flu Klux Klan. As much as folks want to work, want to have jobs that create meaning and worth for them and others, we just can't go back to our consumerist culture. We have to stay in for the sake of other people. We want to go out. One of our dear members, after the first week of self-isolation, said to me, she said she felt like Rapunzel locked in her tower. We can't go back to the way things were. We need to imagine now how we are going to transform ourselves and the world around us. We could talk about liberation. I could talk about freedom, right? There's the freedom from and the freedom to, right? The freedom from fear and the freedom to do what you want. But not today. That's another sermon. Today, I want to remind you that liberation is something that must be universal. It cannot come piecemeal. It cannot be something that for some people and not for others. The same way that our religious forebears, the Universalists, realized that salvation was not something just for the chosen few, but something for all people. That instead of believing in a God that was petty and angry as the worst of humanity, that they believed in a God who was loving and forgiving and embracing of all of creation. It allowed people to stop living in fear of a God and instead to live lives of gratitude to God. What a gift. You have a choice right now. Liberation can be seen as a reward for being white or rich or born in a particular place or a particular time, which you know is wrong. Or liberation, freedom, love can be a gift that all people can and should celebrate. Let me close my sermon with some other words from Thomas Paine. He wrote, "The world is my country, and all of humanity are my siblings, and to do good is my religion. Amen.
In this, our final week of April, UUCR Green Sync to share with you our latest campaign and the original initiative that started it all. As most of you may have noticed, the waste bins in Fellowship Hall have changed just a bit in the past year. In June of 2019, led by Green Sanctuary, UUCR began curbside composting with Black Earth Compost. Since June, you have all risen to the challenge of making a positive change by learning with us the ins and outs of compost versus trash versus recycling, and you've been patient with us as we figured this all out in real time. Our goal with composting from the start was always twofold: to change the church for the better and to inspire members to take small actions in their own lives. Louise and Rob Ward, who are already backyard composters, were inspired by the compost by the composting at church to begin using Black Earth themselves. Louise has shared this testimonial for me to read on her behalf. I remember last spring when my biggest concern of the season was what type of mulch I wanted in my garden beds. Distancing referred to how far apart I should plant my annuals. In the middle of these burning questions, the 5-step backyard composting system Rob and I had set up fell apart. Luckily for me, Gail Page invited me to the Green Sanctuary meeting that week to learn about an industrial composting company with curbside pickup. Green Sanctuary was considering asking the church to go compostable. On that Wednesday night, I attended Gail's meeting, and I heard Justin Canada report to the group all he'd researched about the Black Earth Compost Company from K-Ban. I was totally impressed with Justin and his presentation, and I certainly was sold on the whole idea. In fact, the next week I joined Green Sanctuary, and Rob and I signed up for Black Earth Compost. I got this bee in my bonnet about increasing the number of families and schools in Reading and all surrounding towns using industrial composting for the good of the environment. Over the past summer, folks worked to switch UUCR's kitchen over to be fully compostable. With the help of our compost guardians at coffee hours in the fall and at subsequent potluck lunches, church members got the hang of what should go into the compost, what should be recycled, and what to put in our trash landfill bucket. And we made a difference. After our March 1st potluck, we had 5 bags of food waste and compostables for Black Earth pickup and less than half a grocery bag of trash. Well, here we are at the beginning of another growing season. After being a Black Earth customer for almost a year, that bee in my bonnet is still buzzing. I hope you'll consider upping your composting game and reflect on how our actions demonstrate our commitment to UU Principle number 7, that we show respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Every year, between 30 and 40% of the U.S. food supply is wasted, causing, among other things, overfilling of landfills and nutrient loss in the soil. Farmers then have to feed the soil using commercial fertilizers that are produced using mining and fossil fuels. This is a huge problem that we can all help solve with small solutions, taking action in our own homes. Louise used the term industrial composting, which means composting on a much larger scale and using industrial equipment and techniques, rather than the type of composting you might do in your backyard, although they're related. So what are the benefits of this type of composting? The most obvious and the most impactful for individuals like us is the greater proportion of waste that can be composted versus thrown in the trash. Industrial compost operations can safely and effectively compost animal products like meat, bones, dairy, shells, soiled cardboard like pizza boxes, and even tableware, as long as it's BPI certified compostable. This means that even if you compost in your backyard, you can also use a curbside provider to compost the waste you can't compost in your own system. Most providers allow customers to choose less frequent pickups or to share bins with neighbors to defray the cost. Black Earth even has options for folks who live in apartments. Costs also go down as more people in the community sign up for curbside service. Right now, for instance, if 200 more people in Reading sign up to compost with Black Earth, the per customer cost drops by 30%. If you're interested in signing up to compost, please visit the link in the description below to check which providers are available in your town. And if you'd like additional resources to share with friends and neighbors to get them on the composting bandwagon, please visit our Green Sanctuary Action website. The link is also below and in the weekly UUCR newsletter, or contact any of us in Green Sanctuary. Even now, in the midst of a global crisis, as members of this church community, we join together to support one another, whether we do that via Zoom or in person, on the phone or delivering groceries, in spirit or in action. Another way that we can support our community and each other is by offering our financial support. To do this, most of us have made a pledge to give contributions on a regular basis. Yet, it's our custom to also give a weekly offering during our worship service as we are able. This weekly offering supports our congregation, and it also supports another organization that serves our world through our Share the Plate initiative. For the month of April, Mothers Out Front is our Share the Plate recipient in honor of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day this past week. Mothers Out Front is a nationwide grassroots organization with 20 chapters here in Massachusetts. They're an inclusive movement that centers the voices of mothers, making climate change an issue that our leaders must address. Mothers Out Front works to ensure swift, complete, and just transition away from fossil fuels and toward 100% clean energy. Last year, Mothers Out Front provided UUCR Green Sanctuary with invaluable support for our successful gas leaks awareness and audit campaign. The Green Sanctuary Steering Committee is thrilled that we are sharing the plate with this deserving climate action organization this month. During this time of physical distancing, you have a number of ways to give your weekly offering. Use your bank's bill pay feature, mail in a check, writing either share the plate or pledge on the memo line, or access the online offering and pledge option on UUCR's website. If you want to donate through our website, you can find the link on this page below the video. Please give generously as you are able to support the missions of both UUCR and Mothers Out Front. Your donation will be gratefully received. If you are new to our church, however, we do not ask for any donation. We're so grateful to be here to support you in these challenging times. Visitor, old friend, or anywhere in between, we hope you find the sustenance you seek here.
This week, I'm happy to share our congregational life with you. This week, may you open your heart to the possibility of new experiences, especially in connecting with other UUCR congregants in one of our many online programming options. You can find a daily list of offerings in our weekly update, which includes gatherings for every age group. This week, our Green Sanctuary is sponsoring a fun way to honor Earth Day with a neighborhood cleanup photo project. Individuals and families are encouraged to grab your trash bags and work gloves and clean up your neighborhood. Then share photos with us by this Thursday, April 30th. You can find the link in our newsletter or in the service description for today. With your photos and permission, Reverend Hank will stitch together a photo to share. You can also share them to your own personal social media sites using the hashtags UUCR and hashtag Great Global Cleanup. Did you miss the deadline to order your UUCR T-shirt? You have one more chance to order a shirt or hat. The deadline has been extended through today. Go to the link in the service description to order yours today. Martha Moore will be coordinating distribution when your items arrive. Your purchases will help to support UUCR during these challenging times. Each summer, from the final Sunday in June until the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, we meet together in beloved fellowship. This summer, Roald Wilson will still bring his musical genius, and several services will be led by staff, including Reverend Hang. If you would like to be part of the summer services, from preaching to doing a reading to sharing an idea for the service theme, contact Rob Craig Coleman through his email. And don't be put off by the fears about producing an online service. There will be folks from Worship Arts to do the tech work to assist you and support you in whichever ways make it easy and possible for you to spread your wings as close or as wide and as you are willing to try. And if you have any experiences that you would like to share to help us produce our online worship, please inquire about our stream team. If you are new to UUCR, we would love to hear from you. If you need assistance in accessing any online program, we would like more information about anything church related, please send an email to Melissa Martin, our Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator. You can find her on our church website. We hope this week finds you well and open to exploring new ways of becoming more involved in our congregational life.
We've come to our closing hymn, and I hope you will sing with me again in your homes. When this beautiful hymn, actually a spiritual, was written many, many years ago, "We Shall Overcome," and when it was rewritten for the civil rights movement, the people who began singing it could never have understood what we're going through right now with this pandemic. But they did understand despair, they did understand fear, and they did understand the desire for freedom denied. But we're going to make it through. We shall overcome. I'm going to hold up the lyrics so that you can all sing along as we sing, "We Shall Overcome."
We shall overcome.
Friends, will you join me now in repeating the words we use each week as we extinguish our chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. And our closing words come from Albert Camus, who said, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." Our worship is over. Our service begins. Go in peace.